Hi, I'm Marty Mariner, and welcome to Beyond the Yellow. Rightio. So, where do we start? I think the first thing that needs to be said, and let me make this clear: the Central Coast Mariners are still here, and after everything that's happened over the past 6 months or so, that's something personally I'm incredibly grateful for. There were moments where I genuinely didn't know if this football club was going to survive. We all went through it. We all were trying to read the news of the uncertainty. Wondering if the Mariners were going to become another Australian football casualty, as it were. So, to the new ownership group, welcome. Seriously, I hope you succeed. I hope you invest. I hope you embrace what makes this club different, because if the Mariners are successful, the Central Coast is successful. But supporting a club doesn't mean that you have to clap for every single decision. And this is where I've got a real problem. We've now heard clearly from the new ownership group that the A-League women's team is not part of the acquisition. Own the license, not going to fund it. They've said professional women's football isn't an area that they have existing expertise in, and that they think it would be right to take that wouldn't be right to take that responsibility themselves without being confident that they could do it. The APL is working to find a separate partner for the women's team with the aim of returning next season. And the new owners have said that they're supportive of this, of that process. I believe that'll happen. I understand their explanation, I really do, but I'm sorry that still doesn't sit right with me. Because if you're buying the Central Coast Mariners, then you're buying the Central Coast Mariners. Not just the bits that suit you or your infrastructure. Not just the men's team, not just the academy, the whole football club. And that's where I think Australian football keeps getting it wrong. We constantly talk about growing the game. We constantly are telling our younger girls that the football is for them. We celebrated and packed out stadiums during the World Cup here. We did the same with the Asian Cup. We tell everyone that women's football's never been bigger. And then the moment things get a bit complicated, the women's team is the first thing that's separated out. How does that make sense? Honestly, what message are we sending? That they're part of this club until they're inconvenient? No, not for me. The Mariners, the Mariners women, they earned their place. They won a championship. They gave young girls on the Central Coast heroes wearing yellow and blue. Izzy Gomez, Sarah Langman, Annabelle Martin. They represented this badge with pride. So don't tell me they're somehow separate. They're not. They're us. They're the Mariners. This isn't about blaming the new owners. Absolutely. They're walking into a very difficult situation, and this is bigger than that. This is about the people running our game, understanding that women's football isn't some side project anymore. It's part of the future of Australian football. Actually, it's part of the present. And if we've learned anything from, say, the Matildas over the past few years, it's that Australians will turn up, they'll watch, they'll care, and they'll support women's football when it's given the opportunity to thrive. So why are we making it harder now? Why are we acting like funding the women's side is optional? If we're serious about growing football in this country, then one club has to mean one club. It's not when it's convenient. It's not when the balance sheet looks good. Every single day that needs to happen. I genuinely wish Ruben and the new ownership group every success. I really do. I hope they bring stability. I hope they bring investment. I hope they reconnect this club with the Central Coast community. Because one thing Ruben said really stood out to me. It was he talked about the Mariners community spirit and how special this club is because of the people. Well, here's the thing. This community includes the women. These girls wearing Mariners jerseys, the families who came to games last season, season before that, the players who lifted silverware for this club, they aren't an afterthought. They're part of what makes this football club special. So while, we look at this as absolutely a day to celebrate that the Mariners have survived, it's also a day to remind everyone that survival shouldn't come at the expense of essentially half the club. One Central Coast badge, one Central Coast community, one Central Coast Mariners. That's what we have always stood for. When Sean Millercamp came in at the start of the Central Coast Mariners, how many A-League women's teams had he ever run in his life? 0. How many times did we run focus groups with the Carly Carmichaels and the Gabby Bowles and all of the staff that were there at the time who were, focus groups and meetings? And what do we need to do to get this women's team up and running to start with? So much work, so much passion went into that. They didn't know, but they got to know. They found out because it needed to happen for the Central Coast. I get it. The new group, they've got the license. It's sitting there. It's in the top drawer, right? They've got the license. It's not like, they have to do anything else to apply for it. But if we don't have the existing structure, if the new group doesn't have the existing structure, the experience, the knowledge, the know-how to run that side of football, well then, get it. Ask the people that have been here since day one, get on the phone and say, hey, how did you make this work? Get the right people in those positions. And this thing, we know what we're doing, right? And I keep saying finance, but this isn't a financial decision. This is a decision about people in our family, people in our club. From day one, it has been the Central Coast Mariners, the community club. How can we stand there this year and say, yes, we are the Mariners, we're here for the community? Unless you're a women's footballer. How's that going to make sense? If you don't know, get to know. I'm sure there's that much experience in this new group. In fact, I know there is. To put some people in positions to say, okay, what do we need to do? And I don't know. What differences is there to run a men's team and a women's team? What expertise do you particularly need to be able to run a women's team? They're a football team. The logistics of putting on a game, we've done that for over 20 odd years, right? We got coaches. We had an awesome coach in Emily Husband, who led us to a championship, to Corey Babington, who I thought did an awesome job last year. We've got the manpower who can be there. We've got the Ollie Bazanics who have that connection with the club previously, who brought that spirit. This club is not only now produced from, I spoke about Emily Husband, from Sydney Uni to the Mariners, who's now an assistant coach of the Matildas. Mark my words, she will be the Matildas coach one day. We can't let it happen that she stands there talking about how her journey went to be the leading the Matildas onto the field, but the club she used to coach is not there anymore. And it wasn't because of everyone else telling us that we couldn't, but we made that decision ourselves. Izzy Gomez has pulled on proudly the green and gold for Australia and is now playing overseas, which is great. Come through the club. Show the girls of the Central Coast this is what you can do. Annalise Rasmussen, the first player ever signed for our women's team, is now playing for Juventus. Let me say that again slowly. Is playing for Juventus. Came through the Central Coast. Local. Now playing for Juventus. Do you know how many young girls on the Central Coast are going, I can do that now too? Have you been there at the games? And I grant it. People say, yeah, but, they didn't make money. You reckon the men are making money? Do you reckon anyone's making money in the A-League? Tell me, I'll start investing myself. Not that I have the millions of dollars, of course, but no one is. But the crowds that came to that women's game, it's just like the men's. And I'll let you know a hot fact, you probably know it yourself. I've been to men's games over the years where the crowd's been in the hundreds. It hasn't reached 1,000. The women had started to develop this, not supporters of their own, but people who are very passionate about the women's side, the players within that side. We've developed great relationships with those players. Some have come and gone, some have been there from the start. We can't pick and choose which Central Coast Mariners that we want. Because if we're going to be that community club, we're going to wear it on our shirt. It's our identity. We can't now turn around and say, yeah, I just don't think we've got the right people to do that. Now, if people can come out and say, well, this is the reason the women can't play because of X, Y, Z, and that's the logistics of it. We can't get the people in, whatever. If there's an argument for that, I'm all for it. But don't come at me with the money situation, because that is not an issue. Don't come at me because there's not the people on the Central Coast or local who could do it, because that's not an excuse. You could ring Western Sydney Wanderers. How are you running the women's team there in conjunction? What are you doing? Sydney FC, what are you doing? The Melbourne sides, Melbourne Victory, Melbourne City, what are you guys doing to run these things? How you can get the people in to do it. It's not a financial thing. And as someone who has been vocal, you know that I'm vocal. I do these things. I fully believe that the hole that this will leave in our club is going to be quite damaging. And when I say that, it may not do financially for anyone, but it leaves a hole, man. Because the people of the Central Coast love our women's team. I know, I do interviews. I have done now for the past 4 years or so, men's team. When the women first came in, we've probably interviewed 80% of the women, 90% maybe, who said, hey, I get emails and I get messages. Hey, when am I coming on your show? I want to talk. I want to say hello to everybody. And those rate really well because they are so forthcoming. The men have always done it and the women have just embraced that as well. Have you ever been at a game half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour after the full-time whistle and seen those women walking their way up the sideline, signing every autograph, taking every photo? We've seen them when they've been freezing, a freezing cold day, and they will sign every little thing because they believe that every single one of those young women that are standing there looking at them goes, that's going to be me one day. And now we're going to say, yeah, it didn't quite work out for us. And again, I can't say this enough. I welcome the new ownership. I think it's great. We need to have a Central Coast Mariners. I don't buy the argument that we can't have a Central Coast Mariners without a women's team because it could work. Now, I know we're funding investment in a women's team. And in saying all this, I still believe that this will happen. I've heard nothing concrete, but from everything I have, that there is investment there to be able to say, okay, we can get you on the park. But that's not it. I want them to be the Central Coast Mariners, the same umbrella. When I wear the badge, I want it to be, this is our women's shirt, this is our men's shirt. I want it to be one club, not this is the Central Coast Mariners. And yeah, these are Mariners, but they're funded by someone else. They're not really us. They're sort of us, but they're not really us. Let's cut the crap. They need to be under the one umbrella. And as someone who has been there from day one, I can tell you it will be a disaster for our club if we don't open up our door, welcome the Mariners women's team back into their own house and say, hey, okay, we're all here together. We have to make that work. And whatever the new ownership needs to do to get people in, to connect and to make this back as one again, to me, that's priority number one. Because I can tell you with the amount of people I speak to and communications that I have and the amount of people who are so passionate about these things like me, and don't get me wrong, there's some people who in the club who just support the men's team. Perfectly fine. We've also got some people in this club who only support the women's team. And if they don't want to have a women's team and their argument is, well, if these guys didn't come in, we wouldn't have a club. Yeah, granted. Absolutely. I have nothing against the new group. I hope to shake some hands and meet them. I hope to have them on the show for a great chat. They've saved our club. I am forever grateful. Do you remember, Neil, Once Upon a Tracksuit? We're going to catch up again very, very soon. We had him on about 12 months ago, almost to the day, about within a week or two. A Western United fan who lost his club. Now, we recorded a really good interview about it. He had his daughter on there too, and doesn't have a club to support. They took them away through a fight. And conversations with that guy, I could feel the pain of losing your team. And I thought we were close, as I said at the start of this. I thought we were real close. But we got through that and we survived. And I'm forever grateful for that. And as I said, we will more than likely have a women's team funded separately from someone else who will take the field this year too. I believe that will be the case. But that is not the point of this. So please don't be coming at me with this. Well, if we didn't have these people, well, then we wouldn't have a Central Coast Mariners. Yeah, I get it. What I'm saying is, why do we need to kick the women out? Because that's what we've done. Especially when we've got the paperwork sitting in the top drawer that says, well, they're part of the club. Why are we confusing this for our younger women players who are going through the academy, the potential, the future Annalise Rasmussens, the future Izzy Gomez, the future Sarah Langmans, the future Annabelle Martins, the players that have been through this club who are now, doing awesome things, and we're proud of them. I want them to be proud, and I want them to feel like they are part of this club. Not, well, you're going to get your wages. You're going to wear a yellow and blue shirt, but you're not really in the club. We need to make this work. I hope all that made sense. Thank you for my TED talk, maybe. Is that how it all goes? I'm not sure. I'm just a passionate Mariners fan who wants everyone to be together. And that should include our women, and there's no doubt about that. Not only for the Central Coast Mariners, but for football in general. It's not part of the jigsaw that we can just leave out. And the piece that says women's football is just as important as the piece that says our men's team and our academy, our club, our stadium, our palm trees, Marvin, our cannon, our community. Take care, guys. I'll see you soon.